Hi, everybody.
Hey, Pat. All right, I'm just going to mute everybody so we can get started here. Everybody muted. All right, don't forget to use the raise hand feature if you have a question. And Don, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, quick update on the building. We got the metal on all the way. The roof is done. We got the metal all around the sides. All we lack on that now is we got to get 2 garage doors roll up and then 2 exterior metal doors, and then the building be done. The syrup, we're up selling the syrup now by buckets or by the tote or by the pound, whatever you have. You can bring your buckets, or, Stephen's got some buckets down there. And we seem to be going to have extra queen cells about every week. And I brought a queen cell in that was out in the incubator, and maybe you can see it. Some people don't know what a grafted cell is. See, that's a grafted cell, and it's actually, we make them with a base. It's all natural beeswax. And you see this one here, it hatched out. And these are really nice. I mean, there's nothing wrong with cutting cells. I teach that all the time. For someone who's going to make a few hives, it's the best way. But if you're going to do a lot of splits and your time, is a little short, this is the best thing. And last week I made about 27 splits with some extra cells. And all I'm doing is taking a frame with the bees adhering to it, a frame of honey, and I drop a cell like this right in it. And see, you take that little base and you push down on it, and it sticks right to the top of your frame. That way you don't have to push it into the frame. They're very convenient. It's the cheapest way to build numbers up. And, I've mentioned it a few times before, and right away people start saying, well, it's a waste of time to make splits now. But, if you take a frame of honey and you got a bunch of hives and you make some splits now, and when your queen comes back, that one frame in there, there's enough resources in there that she can start to lay. And once you see her laying, you can go to a couple of your strong hives and pull one frame of brood that's hatching from maybe 2 different hives or 3 different ones, and you got a good hive going. And then the next thing people say, well, I don't want to have to feed them. Well, that's like telling me that you don't want to eat, you're going to save groceries, not eat until springtime. So if you want honey to sell, or if you want to sell bees, you got to build your numbers up when you have time. And that is about the most economical way to make splits. Now, you can make splits, walk-away splits, but walk-away splits this time of the year is almost doomed. I mean, we've gotten swarms even this time of year, and we have to add brood to them. So there's a lot of things that I've done on these different videos to try to help you get over that edge and get your numbers up. And let's get some good questions in tonight. I mean, there's a lot of people that's trying to get into commercial beekeeping, and they're buying basically too much junk that they really don't need. Keep it as simple as possible. Who's got the first good question?
Nobody yet. Get those hands up. If not, I can start. I got a couple of web questions we can start on.
Okay.
David, did you have a question, or? Okay. I got to unmute and then you can go.
There we go. Okay. So I know I've heard a lot of talk about sugar, and you're saying keep it as simple as possible, and everything I'm seeing is 1-to-1, 2-to-1, depending on whatever. And then I have other people that are like, feed them syrup as thick as you can get it and do that. I'm just trying to, with making it simple as possible, what do you really, really suggest that I do?
The syrup is basically what you want to try to make it. I mean, if you're going to sit back and hope there's a honey flow, they're going to get enough, but you have to reason it out. If you're making splits on new foundation, they need as much sugar in that hive as possible. And right now, you need to get your stores built up in going into winter. There's nothing wrong with mixing sugar. I've done it in the past, but we have so many hives that it's not practical time-wise. Because when you start getting numbers up there and you waste 4 hours a day just mixing a few barrels of sugar up, you can pay a little bit more and have a pre-mix. Now we buy by the tanker truck, and every other load, we have them put Pro Health with it, which is like the honey brood builder that, you know, I put on my webpage and on these YouTube videos. It all gets down to time. If you feed 1-to-1, they're not going to build up as fast as if you feed a 2-to-1 or even a 3-to-1. So I try to explain it to people like, if there's 2 people there and they're eating bouillon soup, one's eating bouillon soup and the other one's eating steak and eggs, which one's going to work longer and harder? So it's the same thing with bees. They have to evaporate the water, and what's left is what they got to build with.
Mower over there. I don't know what shows up on it.
All right, so with going a 3-to-1 sugar, you think that's fine?
I use it.
Okay.
I mean, you can talk to any of the students that's been here and open the totes up, and they tell you how thick it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then, do you also feed pollen substitute?
Well, we do in the springtime only. We hang it in buckets. We don't put it in the hive because that way it keeps the beetles down. If you put it in the hive, now if you mix up a pollen patty or buy them even, now the commercial ones, if you buy them, you're going to have to take those and cut them up, make 8 squares out of them. And you want that to be gone in 24 hours to 2 days max. If you don't, you're going to have a bunch of beetles in there.
Okay. And which pollen substitute do you use?
Well, I'm not trying to, you know, go out there and, you know, boost other people's sales up, but one of the ones that I mentioned on my chats and stuff before is Ultra Bee. I mean, that stuff there was actually designed, you could be on an island with nothing growing and feed that and the bees could survive. It's got amino acids, it's got all the nutrients, minerals, everything the bee needs to survive and to, you know, multiply.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, over to, let's see, we got Jay Gilmer. Go ahead, Jay. Unmute it first. There you go.
Will work.
Yep.
Don, on the fructose 55, what is the ratio on that is equivalent to? Is it 3 or 4 to 1, 5 to 1, or?
The last that we got is about a 5 to 1. You know, we've been using buckets, and you know we might have to cut it just a little bit, but Stephen's reluctant to cut it right now. He's going to try it and see how it's going to pour. What he's doing is re-drilling a lot of the buckets. Because if you know, the size of hole is going to determine how much they get, and if the hole is too small and the syrup's too thick, they can't get it out.
I'm using just the T55 or the T50 staple, just punching a couple of holes in the lid, and it seems to be working good.
Yeah.
But, I really like it. It seems like they do it a lot better on that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not promoting it as far as, you know, I'm not making a dime on it, but you know, you got to go where you're going to make money, and time is money. And you know, you can buy sugar for 1/4 the cost, but by the time you end up figuring your time and then hauling it around, I mean, it makes more sense.
Yeah, but of course, I'm not going through near as much as what you are, but I'm buying it by 200 gallons at a time, and I can get it as cheap that way as I can buy sugar just about.
Yeah.
And then I don't have any time invested in it.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing is, you know, beekeepers don't understand that time is what's killing you.
You bet. All right, I'll let somebody else in.
Okay, let's see, where'd he go? I think Dale had a question. Dale, do you still have a question for Don? Okay, maybe not. All right, over to Matt. Go ahead, Matt. Unmute it. Go ahead, Matt. Unmute. There you go.
Hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
My question was, if I got a small hive that don't have enough bees, what's the best way to add bees to it?
Well, you can spray them down with a little bit of sugar water with a little bit of vanilla in it. A few drops of that, that'll, you know, make all the smell the same. Or you can use a newspaper method. You know, we don't fool around using the newspaper method ourselves. We just smoke them good and dump them in.
And they won't kill the queen?
No.
Because I've got 2 hives that's too small to go through the winter.
Well, if you got a hive right now that's small, then maybe you better do a check and see if you got mites in it. You might have a high mite count and the population's dropped on you, or you have a failing queen.
Well, it could be. It's a new split that I made not probably 3 weeks ago.
Well, what I would do if it's a split that you made 3 weeks ago is go to a strong hive and get a frame of brood that's, and you see it's actually hatching, and set that in there. That's going to boost them up, and it's a lot less likely they're going to kill a queen that way.
Yeah. Well, my question is, if you've got a small batch of bees and you put a whole frame of brood in there, are they capable of covering it and still do what they got in their hive?
Well, I think you'd have to define what you think is a small group of bees.
Yeah. Well, I've got 2 that's actually a small group of bees. It probably if you put them all on one frame, it'd cover one side.
You don't have enough bees in there. It sounds like your population's way down. That queen is either no good or didn't get mated well.
Well, that's possible. I can't say it didn't.
I would try shaking some bees in it. You know, what do you got to lose? If the queen's not producing, if they kill her, you ain't lost nothing.
Well, that's true. That is true. All right. Thank you. That's all I got right now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to pull a web question for you, Don. Kin Lamb wants to know, when should we start treating for varroa mites to get ready for winter? I think he's in New York City, if I recall.
I would be treating once a month all year, personally.
Nothing extra for winter you wouldn't do?
Well, I would do a mite count, get in there and check and see what your actual mite count is. You know, and then another thing, I mentioned before, is look at your frames. If you got a lot of stretched out stuff and it's all drone comb, now's the time to change that stuff out. Work it to the outside, get the drawed stuff towards the middle.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Greg, you have a question? Go ahead.
Hey, Don, you're talking about still making some late splits here.
Mhm.
For folks that are up north here, we're down we've had some nights where we've been 49, 50 already, which has been a bunch of us in a hurry to get stuff ready for winter. And then now next week, we're going to be in the 90s. So my question is, it seems like up here, if we're not careful, if we make late splits, you either have to have resource hives to balance out the population, or you can hardly get them into a 5-frame deep. If you make a split now, down where you're at, how long if you made a split, let's say tomorrow, with a cap cell, and you've got a virgin that's going to go out and she's going to get mated, and over the next, let's say, 2 weeks and start laying, how do you have a time frame typically that you set before a certain time period? Like, I need 30 days before my first frost before you feel comfortable that the hive's going to overwinter? Or do you just balance out the hive population from your resource hives?
What we do is basically equalize.
Okay.
Look through the hives and start equalizing. What we're looking for, we put cells in now, is we're waiting to see if the queen's laying. And once we see eggs, then we know she's laying, then we can go to 4 or 5 different hives. And, we're doing more 5-frame overwintered stuff than doubles. Everything that we got in doubles right now, I'm pulling down, making nukes out of. So you can take 3 different hives and pull a frame out of each one, and it's not going to hurt that hive at all. And then that hive that you just made the split on is going to go through winter.
What about folks that don't have resource hives and they're just getting started and they have maybe 2, 3, 4 hives and they're trying to grow the bee yard? Would you suggest that they wait until the spring, or go ahead and take the risk now?
Mated queens.
Find some mated queens. Yeah.
Find mated queens. I got a whole table full right now. If you put mated queens in there, within 3 days, 4 days, that queen's out and laying. And then you can go through 2 or 3 different hives and still pull that resource, put it in there. The main thing you got to think about is this time making splits, you're going to have to count on feeding them either sugar or you're going to have to feed back honey.
Yeah. How long you earlier you mentioned that a frame that has bees that are on it, a frame of honey, and your cap cell, and that's all you need for a split. Let's say you were to do that first thing tomorrow, and let's say you made that split with that frame of honey, the frame that's already drawn out that has the bees on it. Let's say eventually you're just need to go to a 5-frame deep for the winter time, so you've got 3 more frames that you need to have there. For folks that don't have the resources, maybe they had some drawn comb and things. If the most of those frames were drawn out, how much time do you think it takes for your bees to fill that box out enough to where you feel like they're heavy enough for winter if you can't pull from resources?
I feel if you got 3 frames of bees in there, you're going to go through the winter, and you probably experienced that yourself.
Yeah.
The main thing is keep your entrances reduced down so that you don't get robbed. That'd be number 1. And then you're going to have to plan on feeding them. But right now, I made splits, on last week. Now, I made about 27, and all I used was a frame of honey. Now, Sunday, I'm going through there, and if the queen is laying now, I'm going to start pulling a frame of brood from a couple different hives and adding it to it. So I want to see the frame, and I want to see the actual bees hatching. I want to see them cutting out, and that's how I judge it. It's a frame of brand new bees. And when you do that, that hive's going to start to, come up fast.
So probably somewhere 45 days or so would be about the cutoff if you were starting, if the bees in the box were the ones the resources are made from, about 45 days or so, you think they'd be built up enough?
They should be.
About 45. Okay, that makes sense.
And I would be sure to check them for mites and make sure that you're been treating your stuff you're pulling your resources from.
Yeah.
If you pull a resource hive, pull it down, and you got mites in there, you're just putting mites in a weak hive.
Right. Okay, I think that'll help a lot of folks. Thanks, Don.
Okay.
Over to Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Greg, thanks, man. I had some of the same questions, so appreciate that. I just have a question, Don. You've been talking about ventilation over here in Colorado. It's still been kind of hot, and I saw you upped your size of your holes on the front and the back of your hives. But then you also mentioned in the past I heard you say you don't like using screen bottom boards. I'm just curious, why not? Because wouldn't that be helpful for ventilation?
Well, what are you going to do in the wintertime? You're going to put something in here to close the hole up?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. I personally have tried them. I didn't care for them. And what's happened, I'm making bees. So if you have an open screen bottom board in early spring, you get cold evenings, you get a lot of chill brood. That was my experience I had with it. And then if you put an insert in there, the biggest thing I found is you have wax moths starting to build up debris under it and small hive beetles. I mean, you get debris under there. The bees have no way to get to clean that. And if you got cracks in your bottom board, we used to use a 3-piece bottom board, and we done away with that because if you don't caulk that crack, there's enough crack space there that you get little black specks in there. That's wax moth eggs. And if the hive gets a little bit weak, they're already got a start on it.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, oops, never mind. Back to David. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I have a question about queens being down because I'm in lower Southern California where we might have Africanized bees. They talk about it, and I'm pretty sure they're down here, but really we haven't seen that much. After I get good enough with like splits with mated queens, bind mated queens, do you think it would be a good idea to start learning how to inseminate?
Well, that's a personal thing, It depends on how much money you have and then how much time you have. I mean, here's the thing you have to think about. If you're going to spend the money on the equipment, how many people are going to buy that inseminated queen? So there's your market. Until you get your name out there, you got a product you're not going to be able to sell fast. And I have people all the time that are students ask me the same thing. I tell them, buy production queens. Because if you make a mistake, the $35, $40 is nothing. you make a mistake on 2 or 3 $300 or $400 inseminated queens, that's a hurt. So those are things to think about. And you know, another thing that I had brought up before on chats, buying an inseminated queen, there's nobody will sign a guarantee that that queen will not fly out and remate. So, you know, that's the thing I worry about.
Okay, that makes sense. Because we just, beekeepers in my area, they don't do their own queens. We buy them from places.
Well, I mean,
Because
there's
there's
a
no
market
guarantee
for
that
it.
you're not going to.
You just have to develop. Yeah, man, I used to buy a few queens breeder stock from different people in California, and to just get diversified in my breeding stock. You want to keep your stock where it's gentle, you can work it. If it's where you can't work it, you're not going to sell it. So it's a selling point to have good, gentle bees. And then when people get on a chat like this and they say, I bought bees from them and they overwinter well, I mean, that's a selling point. You don't have to spend money to advertise. People will advertise for you. Produce a good product.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Don, follow-up question to that. How often will a queen go out and get remated? I thought that was pretty rare.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people that are more educated than I have. I have seen them go out at least 2 times, 3 times. I've seen them go out. I've watched them come out of a hive. I've seen them go into a tree. They're too high to get. I've watched them just take flight again and swarm around for a while and then land in a different tree. So my observation, I've seen them swarm at least 3 times. But now there's people that study it in more depth than I do, and they say that, you know, 10 to 20 times they can mate. I've never had the time to follow them around.
Should tie a little flag to them.
Yeah.
All right, over to Patricia. Go ahead, Pat.
Hi, everybody. I know in springtime, Don, we talk a lot about length of daylight, you know, getting longer. Well, now the days are getting shorter. And also nighttime temperatures. We want it to be above 55. You know, we look for certain key things in spring. Are any of those key things that we should be looking for right now for fall, for getting ready for fall?
If I would, you know, if I was a new beekeeper and I was slow working the hive, I'd wait till mid-afternoon. I wouldn't go in there early in the morning. I mean, the temperature, you know, you don't want to get in there when it's too cool, chill brood, or damage a queen. That's the 2 things I would worry about. If you're grafting now, you know, and you've got boxes set up, you want to make sure you're not getting temperatures falling down below 55, unless you're using an incubator and you've got a cell starter. That's what we're doing with cell starters right now.
So you're not waiting for them to be in the hive. You're pulling them and putting them in the incubator to maintain that temperature so that the queen cells don't get chilled.
We don't run starter finishers. To me, it's a waste of time. We run, I actually done a video on YouTube here, I guess 2 or 3 weeks ago, showing all the starters that we have. We probably got, on one side of the yard, there's about 20, and then there's about 35 behind the house we have. And we rotate them out so that we can do 2,000 to 3,000 cells in a week's time. And what we're doing is we keep those there queenless, and we keep them full of bees. And every time we put a graft in there, we add more bees. We dump a package in each one. We go out to our backyard and shake packages down the street about 2 miles. We shake bees out of that, and then we take them into the house, and we let them packages sit overnight. That way, the bees are less organized and not going to fly back to the parent location. And we just dump a package in on each one. And we're getting probably 95, 98% still taken on them. And as soon as the cell is sealed, then we put it in the incubator. So the incubator is doing, you know, the work. You can probably have the incubator we can do about 500, 800 cells in it right now.
Does that answer your question, Pat? You were still muted. So.
On,
yeah, I went back to muting so y'all couldn't hear the dogs bark. I'm sorry. There's something out in the yard. Leon's going to get up and go see if it's a bear because they're all barking. All right, that was it.
Okay.
Somebody had mentioned on Facebook on my group there about incubators, using a small incubator and a small different thing. We actually got a little apartment refrigerator, and Stephen lined it with some Advantech, and he got all the stuff off of Amazon for less than $50. It's thermostatically controlled. We got 2 light bulbs in there, and the light bulbs, you run dual light bulbs because if you got, say, 500 cells in there and your light bulb burns out, your temperature is going to drop. But if you got 2 light bulbs, it heats up faster, and if one burns out, you still got heat.
Good idea.
And then today, I just bought a new gadget for my truck. I can haul an incubator, and I can run 110 in my truck. So I've got a little inverter, which is nice. It's less than $30.
Okay. And I think David has a question, or Jay has a question. Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, Donald, on the provac, when you're using it, how much oxidic acid are you putting in there? I've been just filling the cup up and doing it, and I don't know if I'm doing too much or if it's going to hurt anything or.
There's a measuring cup, measuring spoon that comes with that unit. You should be using that. What kind are you using? A hand wand or are you using a provac?
I've got the John O. VAP.
It's probably similar. He should have sent you a little thing. I would say it should be about 1/4 of a teaspoonful.
Okay. Is it going to hurt anything if I've been doing them too much or put more in there?
Well, I think I would try to stay with what is recommended on it.
Yeah.
Provac sends out that little measuring thing. That's what we use. On the hand ones, we used to use double, but it didn't seem to do much difference whether you use a single one or a double.
I think that's one reason it slows mine down a little bit. It's probably having to heat up too much of it.
Yeah.
Takes me a little bit longer with it, which is all right.
When you use double, what was happening is it wasn't getting a powder. It was getting like a gummy stuff at the bottom. It wasn't burning, or the unit wasn't staying hot enough. That was the one experience we had with it.
This one burns, but it takes 30 to 45 seconds.
Something might be with the unit then. Might be a loose connection. Because a provac, I done a video on it about 3 years ago. I can do 2 of them a minute. As fast as you can load the things up. I mean, you go on the 5-frame nukes, we do 2 a minute. 30 seconds to them.
Well, I'd put mine in and take the empty one I just took out and fill it up and set it on the next hive and be back and have to wait just a second or two before.
That's basically what we're doing, but we can go along. I just wish when I got mine, I would have got 4 caps. That way I can have plenty ahead.
Yeah. Mine came with 4. That was the good thing about the John O. And I think it probably did come with the scoop. I don't remember for sure, but I was just thinking that, no, okay, it's got the cup in it, so that's what I was using. So,
are you going to start selling bees this coming spring?
I've been selling bees.
Good.
I probably sold about 35 or 40 nukes this year. I'm selling a few queens. So just what I make, I'll pull them out of a nuke.
Well, if you need packages, let us know because we're setting our package lineup. We're starting to build our own packages again. So that's why I got a good wood miser so we can cut packages out.
Okay. I may do that. So far, I've just been coming in and putting the queens in and just doing the splits with it. And then I've got about 30 resource hives, 5-frame and 8-frame. That work pretty good as far as pulling them in, and I'm doing what you taught me. I'm pulling frames out of 2 or 3 boxes and putting in there, and it's working good. It's working good. I've got one of the bee places here, Texas Bee Supply, where when they run out of queens or they run out of nukes, then they start referring people back to me, which helps. So, and then I'm selling some syrup and some frames. I was actually built a 30 by 60 shop with lean-tos on each side of it this year. And that way I've got everything set up. It's organized where I can get in and out.
Are you starting to buy your syrup now by the tanker?
No, I'm buying 250 gallons at a time. I've got one of the totes I'll mount it on the back of my truck,
Yeah.
and I'll go get it, and then I've got it set up where I can just walk on the side, open the valve up, fill up a bucket, close it back up, so I can fill up a bucket in 3 or 4 seconds
Oh, yeah, that's good.
because it's coming out of a 2-inch spout.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I'm doing that, and then also when people come in, normally they'll want to get some syrup when they're buying the bees, and then some of them are, if they're local, they're coming back to me and buying from me.
Well, we're starting to get a good turnover on that because we're buying it right directly from Man Lake. They'll just bring that tanking truck right to you. But, you know, it's convenience. So people that they can't find it, it's the sugar's mixing time and everything else.
Well, I've gone through, this is I told somebody today it's my second, but it's my 3rd tote. So it's about 700 gallons I've gone through since about April.
Yeah.
So with what I'm using and then selling to, and I'm making some on it, and it helps pay for my feed and my time to go get it. It's about a 60-mile trip.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm making a little bit on the frames, just not a lot, but a little bit. I'm handy. That way if they need something, they come get them and go.
Yeah. I tried that, but you get yourself too thin. I got to where I don't want to sell nothing except bees anymore because, you know, there's too much competition with, you know, equipment. Everybody's selling equipment, and we buy it by the pallet load, so we get it so cheap that it's not worth stocking, you know, to resell.
I'm stocking it more for myself, but if somebody needs something, I'll make a little bit, you know. And I'm not pushing it. It's just if they need some, I'll sell them some. And it kind of helps as a service to them.
Oh, yeah.
Keeps me in front of them, so when they need more bees.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, with the Jonos, I believe it's a 1/4 teaspoon for a nuke and a 1/2 teaspoon per deep. So that's what you should be measuring out, because I just go through with the caps, pre-measure the ones ahead of time, and just keep on trucking.
Okay. No, I've been going with the full cap on all of them.
Way too much.
Yeah.
Less is more.
Oh, as long as it's not hurting them, I'm all right with it.
I'm sure they're fine. All right, over to Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
You hear me?
Yep.
My question is about the Provac 110. I bought one. I've been using it, but the instructions that come with it was not very good.
You're lucky. You got instructions. They didn't give me none.
Well, the ones I got, they might as well have left them at the house. But on mine, I was looking at it. When I go to use it, I'll set my temperature, and then I'll go to using it, and all of a sudden the temperature will start rising. And then I'll have to play with it to get the temperature back down. How am I supposed to set that thing?
What's the temperature you're trying to set it at?
I thought it was 230. Is that accurate?
I think it's 244 mine's set at.
Okay. Well, regardless of what I set it at, it's not staying there.
Well, you could have one of those LDD readouts could be bad. Call the guy up over there, and I think it's Larry. Call Larry up over there, and he'll send you a new unit. Not the whole unit, but that LED thing there.
Okay. Now mine's the Provac 110. I don't know if that's over.
That's what I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you thinking it may be the unit itself malfunctioning?
If it's not heating up right, there's something.
Well, it's heating up right, but it's not staying locked in at one specific temperature.
Well, as soon as you turn it over and the acid hits it, the temperature is going to fall. And then it takes a few seconds, about 4 seconds, the temperature starts to climb again.
Yeah, I understand that. But when it starts climbing, it passes the temperature that I originally set it at.
Well,
it keeps climbing. It won't stop until I start pushing the down button, and it starts dropping back down again.
It might be something in that control. I've heard several people had problems with the control, and he's replaced the control on it. Mine, I've never had that problem with personally.
Okay.
That sounds faulty. I would definitely contact them.
Okay, so you thinking it might be faulty?
Mm-hmm.
I would think mine stays pretty regular. I don't know if the Johnny Wrap stays pretty regular too.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, one other question I got when y'all was talking about queens a minute ago, how long does a queen bee actually stay gone on her queen flight?
Well, it all depends, I guess, on how much drones you got, how big your yard is, how much trees. There's a lot of variations in it. I've had some bees that are left with a small swarm, and I thought was never coming back, and 2 days later they showed up back.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I've had, I've been raising bees all summer, and I've had a couple of them that actually flew off, and I said, well, they're gone. And like 4 days later, a swarm comes in and goes in there. I said, well, there's a wild swarm or something going in there. Was that?
That could be what's happening.
Or is that her coming back?
It could be. I'm not, I've had the same thing. They'll leave and be gone for you. That, it's not like cattle. You can't fence them in. They got a mind of their own. I've seen people put packages in the package up and leave the very next day after the queen got out. It's just something about the box. Bees are kind of particular.
Well, see, I've had that happen on me 3 different occasions. I made a split, put a queen in there, and as soon as she come out of the cage or whatever, I've had them to leave, and then it'd be like 2 days later, there's a swarm back.
Well, now, if you put a mated queen in, they shouldn't be leaving, not unless the queen wasn't mated.
Well, she was laying. She may not have been properly bred. She may have went out on another, queen flight or something. I don't know. That's my question.
Yeah, well, that's a difficult one to answer because, I would have to look at it. Did you look and see if there was just one egg in a cells or was there multiple?
Well, there was more than one, probably like a circle about like a quarter or something like that is when I got her and put her in there.
No, I'm saying each cell, would it have one egg per cell or did it have?
Yes, one egg.
It's possible you could have got a queen that wasn't properly mated. There's no way that a breeder can tell how well the queen is mated. The longer you leave them in a box.
Well, see, these queens here is all the ones I've raised.
Oh.
And like I said, I'm a new beekeeper. I've only been into it really. I had bees for a year and a half, but I ain't really started raising bees stuff.
How many hives do you got?
70.
70? You got any drone comb in there? Any green comb?
Yeah, I've got some, but right now, my drones are basically non-existent.
Well, if you don't have enough drones, you're not going to get mated.
But now, this happened earlier in the year when I did have drones.
Well, you got to have a lot of drones. You would be surprised. That's why I mentioned several times on chats, we put green combing because if you're doing a lot of mating, you figure if you're going by what people at the college are telling you, 20, 30 drones per queen, and you do 1,000 queens, and you start adding them up, that's a lot of drones.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this question. Like I said, most of my drones are gone now. There's a few still left in there. How do you keep drones in there all summer long?
Feed them good.
In other words, if you ain't feeding them good, they'll kill the drones out, right?
Well, they ain't going to kill them out. They're going to slowly, fill up the drone cells with honey. That's why you need some drone comb in there. Another thing, if you don't want to buy drone comb, is put starter strips in there and let them make what they want to make. A lot of times, if they need the drones, they'll make drone comb.
Yeah, I'm using probably 80% starter strips in all my stuff. Oh, but like I said, I've got some green cone in some of it, and like I said, I may not be feeding it enough,
You got 70 hives. How much sugar you go through?
I'm going through probably anywhere from 150 to 200 pounds a week.
You got them on a starving diet. We got one yard that's got about 100 hives in it. We go through a tote of syrup a week. That's 300 gallons.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned on a chat before, if you got you put a package in, you're looking at 25 to 35 pounds on new foundation, or if you got starter strips, it's going to take a little bit more. So you're looking at that ratio, 25 to 35 pounds to get them up and going. Now, if you're splitting them, you got less bees to draw comb, you got less bees to harvest honey.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If I've got honey, not a lot of honey, but some honey in all the hives, they're not starving then, are they?
Well, they might not be pulling that honey.
Okay.
That's
would you
why
say-
you feed the bees. You stimulate them to get them to produce more.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm feeding them about. Well, see, right now I've started feeding them pretty heavy. I'm pretty much feeding them all they want.
Yeah.
But up till now, I've been, like I said, around 150, 200 pounds a week. But now I'm keeping syrup. I've been open feeding.
Well,
And
you're
I
only
started.
getting a percentage there.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that there's some hives getting it all, and other hives are just getting some.
I would either go to an inside feeder, or worst goes to worst, use entrance feeders, or you could just get buckets and put them on the lids, drill a hole
Yeah.
in the lid.
Well, see, that's what I'm working on. I've got about over half mine now has got inside feeders that I built.
Yeah.
But now the others, I'm working on getting buckets. But I got my buckets in. I'm still missing my plugs. They ain't come in yet. And I ordered one set of lids, but the lids that I ordered to start off with was the wrong lids.
Mhm.
They the ones that didn't have the little rip thing on it. It just snapped on.
Yeah.
And I ordered some of the others, but they ain't come in yet.
Well, usually I try to tell people, if you're going to order buckets from anybody, make sure you order the lids at the same time. That way you're going to have matching stuff that's going to fit up.
Well, I did, but I got the wrong lid.
Oh.
I got a cheaper. It's just that lid that just snaps on. You was talking about need the ones that's got that little strip that you peel off to where it'll come off.
Yeah, those will last a lot longer.
I ordered the ones that just snapped on. It didn't have the little peel off rim on it.
Yeah.
And they're leaking just a little bit. But let me ask you this. I don't know what bees can take and what they can't. What if you put a little bit of silicone around that edge and snapped it on? Would that hurt the bees?
Well, the silicone won't hurt the bees, I don't think. But the thing is, you're going to waste a lot of time.
Yeah, but I ain't got but 70 hives, so I it ain't like I can't handle that part.
It'd probably be a whole lot quicker to get canning jars and just with a canning lid shoot a T50 staple in it. It's got 2 holes in it, and you're up and running.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, most of my hives have got hive top feeders in them. Well, I'll say 50 of them.
Yeah.
I've got sugar water on them. I've got about 20 of them that's still open feeding.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting on getting all my stuff in from my buckets, and I was going to put buckets on them, but they ain't. Like I said, all my stuff ain't in.
Yeah. You got to get everything all lined up. Spring's coming now. Get everything ready for spring.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to. I've got enough hives now. I talked to you last time. See, I started out this year with 5 hives, and I've got 70 now. So I've got my resources now to actually do something with them.
Yeah.
And I ain't tried to sell none yet. I'm planning on trying to sell.
Well, get your numbers up, because once you start selling, it's hard to tell people you don't have bees anymore, and you're pretty soon to have no stock again.
Yeah. But I hadn't even tried to sell. Like I said, I know y'all say the market's there, but I really don't know if the market's there myself personally.
I think if you ask any student that I've had here, or even other people that hadn't been students, if they're selling bees, they can sell bees. The market's there.
Like I said, I hadn't even tried not one one time yet. I had one guy to come up and bought a queen from me. He knew I had bees and bought a queen. That's the only thing I've even sold. I ain't even tried to do nothing yet because I wanted to get enough bees ahead before I did it because I knew you could sell out and you'd be right back at the beginning again.
Oh, yeah.
So, but anyway, I reckon that's all I've got. But you think that Provac, I need to call them and talk to them about it. Think it's maybe a malfunction.
I think I'd call them and talk to them about it.
Okay. All right, that's all I got.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see, over to Greg. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, Matt. Hey, about those buckets. If you order those buckets from Uline, or not Uline, if you order those buckets from Industrial Container, since we put that video out, you can't even find the gasket lids anywhere anymore. So recently, I had to buy just the regular ones. I've had the regular lids on now for probably 6 weeks, and they're actually sealing up great. They're not leaking one bit. So if you have those regular snap-on lids, if you ordered the lids and the buckets both through industrialcontainer.com, they're working great. So I know previously I was sold on it's the regular, I think it's P80, I think is the item number on that. Those are not leaking at all. So you might, if you already have them, you might try some of those. The nice thing about those is you can just pull that off and clean it. So have you tried using that regular lid?
Yes, I've tried it, and it seemed like it was leaking just a little bit, but after it sat there a while, I couldn't tell because the bees wrapped it up because I set it up outside, and I set it on top of a little screen thing I had, and I went ahead and put sugar water in it. So I said water's liable to leak, and sugar water may not, so I put sugar water in it. And bees come up there and started wrapping it up, and I put something up on it. I never did see nothing drip, but the bees may have been eating it off faster than it was dripping.
Did you get those buckets from Industrial Container?
Yeah, I got them from Industrial Container.
Okay. Yep. I haven't seen a single one of those leak there. How did you, those plugs, did you say that the plug was leaking or the lid was leaking?
Well, I think, really, I'm not for sure. I think it was the lid there a little bit.
Because if you don't feel that, it has to be, a lot of folks are trying to find, the only tricky part about that bucket feeder system is you absolutely have to use a 50 millimeter hole saw. And those are even getting hard to find because a lot of them came from China. So
well, I got the 50 millimeter. I ordered me 2 of them off Amazon.
And that's what I'm getting ready to say though. You actually put some calipers on them because some of them aren't. Some of them are 1.98. They'll say about 50 millimeter, and some of those are actually a hair off. They're like 1.98 or 1.99 when they have to be 1.97. If they're not a true 50 mil on the outside diameter, some of those teeth on that hole saw are offset, and so it's only a hair, but it's making those holes too big, and those will leak with water. 2 to 1 seems to be fine. So maybe throw some calipers on there and make sure it is 1.97. That could be the problem.
Okay. Well, now the plugs I'm using right now are actually used plugs because I've got some plugs ordered, but they hadn't come in yet.
Okay.
The plugs that I've got right now, see, I do construction work. I build houses for a living. And the plugs that I'm using actually come out of 5-gallon bucket paint buckets.
Okay, I got you.
So
they might be a little war. Okay, yeah.
So they may be a little war, but
or different size. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But my plugs ain't come in yet. But I've got 8 or 10 of them that I've been saving out of them buckets. And I said, well, if I ain't got them, I could use them if worse comes to worse, you know.
Right. If you have any more trouble with those buckets, just shoot me an email at naturesimagefarm@gmail.com or find me on Facebook. I'll be happy to help you get them squared up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Greg?
Just the last thing on that ProVape, I believe mine is also set for 230, and it hits 230, and then once it hits there, and it goes to sublimate, it drops and comes back up like Don said. I don't wonder if you have a wire on the thermostat that's not sending that signal correctly back to your module. So like Don said, I'd get a hold of them there at Provac and tell them what's going on. They can probably just send you a replacement.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. All right, over to Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
I got two hives that they're hot hives. So I'm trying to figure out if it's something I'm doing, if it's something in the hive. How would you diagnose that? I mean, do you just not just put up with that and just requeen it right away, or is there something I can look at?
Well,
When I
have
say
they
hot hive,
always been that way, or they just lately?
yeah, they're 5-frame nukes. One is like 4 deep, the other's 2 deep, and it's when I say hot hive, like when I mow past them, I'll get stung a few times. They start, kind of chasing me around. But
When's the
I
last
was
time
in
you
them
went through
yesterday.
them?
What's that?
When's the last time you went through them?
So I was in there not today, but 2 days ago. And when I lift open the top, I give them a little smoke. As soon as I pulled that first frame, they just started like boiling up from inside and started like buzzing around my head.
Did you go all the way to the bottom?
I did not.
It's
All I looked
possible
for
you
was-
might have queen cells in there, or they might be queenless. They might have swarmed. I wouldn't run 5-frame boxes that high because they build up extremely fast. And if you set too long on them, they will swarm on you.
Okay. It could be. I mean, I had a swarm 2 weeks ago, and I'm not sure where it came from because there seemed to be a ton of bees in there. And they were bearding off the front. So
I'd go through it all the way to the bottom. If you had a swarm, they could throw after swarms. You might have frames in there with a lot of cells on you.
okay.
But normally, I tell people, if you've been working them and haven't had a problem, you might have a lizard or, something underneath the hive that's aggravating the bees.
Yeah. I mean, could be. No, I have 15 hives here, and it just seems to be 1 or 2 hives. And when I say 1 or 2 is because I kind of haven't really. I think it's 2 hives, but when they're that close together, it's kind of hard to tell. So I'm just trying to figure out what my plan is to get to the bottom of it, or just requeen it. And
I don't think I'd requeen it. I'd inspect it first to see what you got.
Yeah. All right. So look for queen cells or signs of swarming. If I don't find those, is there anything else I need to look for? There's no lizards where I live.
I would look, make sure you got a queen that's laying good patterns.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good pattern, you might have high mite problems. That's another issue could be, They shouldn't be defensive.
Yeah, they're pretty moody. So I was in them yesterday, and then I wasn't in them today, but I was in some other hives, and they're just buzzing around my head. As soon as I get near them, a couple days later, they still kind of, I guess they remember me.
Well, I don't
I don't
think I
put up with
would requeen them just because you can't work them. I'd go through that hive and see what you have.
Okay. That makes
Andrew,
sense.
Andrew, how strong is that hive you have?
It seems pretty. I mean, it's only a 5-frame nuke. It's 2 deep, so 10 frames of bees. But it's it seems like it's packed with bees.
Okay, is there any chance you're getting robbed out?
I looked. I don't believe so. I mean, it's not. It's possible, but.
Okay, just wondering because I know up here in Buffalo we had a dearth for a little while for 2 to 3 weeks of really nothing blooming. So I know you're kind of similar climate.
Yeah, I mean they seem, all the hives seem kind of content. I gave them sugar today, and it started a little bit of a frenzy, but that wasn't part of it.
Okay, just a thought.
Yeah, I'll go through them, top to bottom, see what's going on.
Okay, and over to Todd. Go ahead, Todd. Unmute.
I'm running 2 to 1 and sometimes 3 to 1 when I feed. How many holes should I poke in that plug in the bucket? Because right now I only have one.
Well, if you're running a thinner syrup, you know, it depends on how big the hole is. Is about the 16 gauge staple?
Yeah.
It should be fine. The only problem we had poking a staple through there is the plastic on warm days seems to want to close the hole up.
Oh,
So we got a drill bit that is the same size, and we use a drill bit because the lens on the drill bit will kind of clean out that excess plastic and it won't close that hole back. I'd try one hole and drill it first. Now, if that don't work, I'd put two in. But
Okay.
we're using a thicker syrup than that, and it seems to be working fairly well for us.
okay. All right. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Over to Dale. Go ahead, Dale.
Mr. Don, I bought 3 swarms last month. I'm fixing to do oxalic acid on all my other hives. Is there any need to do those swarms since they had a brood break?
I would wait about 3-4 weeks, then I would treat them. I mean, you shouldn't have, that's one natural way to get rid of the mites.
Right.
But you never know, they could be carrying mites to the hive.
Right.
I would treat them just to be on the safe side.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and I think Carol had a question, but her microphone is down. Don, I already have incubators running in spring full of chickens. How much different are the temperatures and humidity?
We don't worry too much about humidity in the incubator. We just run it at 92 degrees. We got a little LED thing that it came from Tractor Supply originally.
Do you put anything in that little fridge for humidity?
No. Well, we tried it with a little bit of like a lid with a little bit of water in it. It didn't seem to make much difference if we used it or not. So we've been running all summer now with no moisture in there, just cells with running 92 degrees.
Okay. All right. I think, let's see. I got, if there's no other questions, that'll be it for tonight. Last call for questions. Anybody? Going once, going twice. All right, then that's it for tonight. Don, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate everybody showing up. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Night.